Alrighty. Well, Javi Marin here, online fitness and nutrition coach. If you drop by, just say hello so I can see that you're there. I see somebody has just arrived. So just drop a little hello in the comments so I know that you're there. Viewers are arriving at the moment. Hello, everybody. Hi. How's everybody doing today? I hope you're nice and dry at home and that you don't have to drive a lot because it's pretty bad out there, okay? Hello, Linda. Linda is there. So good to see you, Linda. Wonderful. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, I hope you're enjoying your vacations. Linda, we certainly miss you a lot. We miss to see your smile at the front desk, but you deserve to take a break and to enjoy yourself. So wonderful. I'm so glad for you. So glad for you. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and dive in today's topic because I think you're going to get a lot out of it, okay? You're going to get a lot out of it. The topic of today is quantitative versus qualitative nutrition, okay? And this is a very, very important topic, and the reason why is because many people never start, dieting and exercising and taking care of their body because they think it's going to be super complicated and it's going to require a huge amount of sacrifice and counting calories and measuring food. And today I'm going to debunk that myth and tell you that actually it doesn't have to be that way. There is a different route, and that is what we're going to explore and learn today. All right, so on the first episode, this is episode number 2 of Proper Nutrition, Alimentación Correcta in Spanish. We review on the first episode the 3 pillars of simple, sustainable, and healthy system or nutrition system, okay? And what are the 3 pillars? First and most important was the meal frequency. We really want to distribute our meals throughout the day so that number 1, we're not hungry throughout the day, and number 2, that we have a small burst of energy distributed equally. And we talked about the importance of feeding the muscle with small portions of protein throughout the day. So the ideal is between every 3 or 4 hours to have either a meal or a snack, okay? So that's the first pillar of the proper nutrition. Pillar number 2 is distribute your micro and micronutrients in a balanced way throughout every meal. So I know that we talked briefly about the macros, but when we talk about macros, we're talking about carbs, we're talking about protein, and we're talking about fat, right? When we talk about micronutrients, it's a whole different world. It's very complex, but at the same time, it's very simple because just by adding fruits and vegetables, boom, you're bringing most of those micronutrients to your nutrition. All right, so and the third pillar is hydration, and we talked about the importance of hydration as well. If for whatever reason you missed episode 1, please let me know. I'll be happy to send you the link to the video for episode 1. But today we're going to dive into qualitative versus quantitative nutrition that I mentioned. All right, so here we go. This is sort of a spectrum of how to sort of navigate nutrition, right? We're not going to talk about diet. We're not going to talk about restricting anything, okay? We're going to talk about a nutrition system or a nutrition plan that you can implement that is natural and is sustainable. So, all right, we're going to start here in the qualitative. Qualitative just means that by switching the quality of the food that you eat, you're going to start making progress, right? So the step number 1 is just general recommendations. For example, many of my clients, I recommend if they're in weight loss, I encourage them to switch whole grains over refined grains. Why? Because with the whole grains, you're going to get the fiber and that energy that the carbs bring you It's going to last for longer time. It's going to take longer to digest. So it's going to keep you fuller throughout the period of time between meal to meal. Versus eating refined carbs, that would not have the same effect. It would cause your insulin to spike. It would pretty quickly be absorbed in the form of sugars and distributed along the body pretty quickly, and therefore you might be hungry just an hour after that happened. Okay, so that's one of the general recommendations. Another general recommendation: start replacing saturated fat like butter, for example, with unsaturated fats like avocado, olive oil, nuts. So that is a change that is going to really help the quality of your fat. Okay. So again, we're talking about the quality of your food here. Another general recommendation is drink mostly water over sugary beverage. And as soon as you do that and you're having more water intake and you're reducing those sugary beverages, you're going to see an improvement in all of your bodily functions. Okay? So again, it's a general recommendation. It's very easy to follow, and you don't have to be measuring specifically how to do it. On episode number 1, I mentioned several strategies that you can use in order to make sure that you get the water that you need. Okay, so again, watch episode number 1 to get those tips. And then, for example, another general recommendation to improve the quality of your food is eat the rainbow, a plate colorful with fruits and vegetables. Okay, so we talked in episode 1 how to structure your main dishes, your main meals, talking about lunch and dinner, right? And so we discussed that half of the plate is going to be veggies and possibly also fruits, right? So you want the more color, the better. And so you want to have bell peppers on it. You can throw some chopped mango, or you can put watermelon in there. You can have greens like lettuce, you can have kale, you can have all that, broccoli as well. So when you're mixing and getting all this color, you are getting the minerals and the fiber and the vitamins that your body needs. Therefore, you're hitting your micronutrient target. That's why this is a general recommendation that you don't have to think much about it, but you're yet providing the necessary nutrients to your body. All right, let's move on a little bit over here. We continue with general advice to improve the quality of your nutrition. For example, eat 2 servings of fruit per day. And if you eat 3, it's okay. Fruit is awesome and is wonderful, right? If you're in a weight loss program, you want to allocate your fruits in the morning, probably until your lunchtime, and then in the afternoon switch to raw vegetables. Which brings me to the next point. Eat at least 3 servings of vegetables per day. You want to make sure that at least your lunch, your afternoon snack, and your dinner have lots of vegetables, right? Of course, you can always put it in the breakfast as well. You can make an omelette and then just throw some spinach in there. But you want to make sure that you have 3 generous servings of vegetables, and that's so very important. All right, so as we move along in the spectrum of from the qualitative to the quantitative, notice that we're getting into more specific advice. Here, for example, eat less than 2,300 milligrams of salt per day. In other words, watch your sodium intake, okay? Watch how much salt you put into your meals. Another sort of a specific advice is also watch that you eat less than 10 to 11% of total calories coming from saturated fats. Okay, so again, you have to be a little bit watchful and make sure that the fat intake you're consuming is from the unsaturated fats, as we discussed earlier with the avocados, the nuts, and the olive oils. Okay. So as we move along into the spectrum of the quantitative, now it's the quantity, it's the specific, it's the numbers, right? We need to get more precise. Okay, so it's gonna come to a point in which you really have to know how many calories you are consuming, right? And that's especially true when you get stuck, you stop making progress, and you need to know what it is exactly that you're consuming, because you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. So you might be thinking that you're consuming healthy food, but as a matter of fact, they might be too highly caloric, okay? A great example of that, it's in my school. We have a cafeteria. It's a wonderful service that we have. It's really great. But sometimes on your eyes, the dish that you have in front of you is super healthy. But then when you look it up and see the calories that it has, you're like, wow, I mean, I wasn't aware that this food in particular is so high in calories. You don't know because you never entered it before. And then you realize when you start tracking calories, right? In the same way, you don't know if a meal is balanced until you enter it, and then you see the percentage of macros. You know how much protein you're getting, you know how much carbs you're getting, and you know how much fat you're getting. And until you don't track it, there's no way for you to know it. You're sort of intuitively putting a balance of the three of them if you're familiar and you know well the macronutrients. But when you start tracking them, then you gain a new perspective, right? You master a little bit more what you're eating. And then you get to a point that when you're entering and tracking food, we, by default, were not accurate. I mean, there's been many studies that prove that people tracking calories, they have a wide variety of results. Why? Because they might be entering similar dishes, but they have huge differences in calories. They might be entering the wrong measurement, the wrong amount, or the wrong recipe, right? So then, if you're tracking calories, doesn't necessarily mean that you're hitting the targets 100% all the time. So then, when you want to get more precise, then you really start measuring and weighting your food. So for example, if you have a single food plate or dish, and then you have your protein in the form of chicken breast, you have your carbs in the form of, let's say, whole wheat rice, brown rice, and then you have your veggies, it's very easy to track. If you know that you have 150 grams of protein, and then you have, let's say, 120 of rice, and then you have the grains. You put it in, and most likely you're going to accurately reflect what is in there. Therefore, the more accurate, the better result you can get, right? And lastly, to keep a detailed food journal, which is precisely what I'm talking about, to get more and more precise. But the point that I want to make today is that you don't start right away here. You don't start on the quantitative spectrum when you start taking care of your body. You start here. You start with the general recommendations. You start with the quality of your food. You start making important changes. And because they're general recommendations, that doesn't mean that they're not going to yield results, because they will yield results. But as you move along in your journey, you're going to hit bumps, and then you're going to get stuck, and then you're going to have to evaluate what's going on. Why am I not losing more weight? And then many things might be happening. Maybe you've gotten used to that system. Maybe your caloric balance has changed. Maybe your activity level has decreased. Maybe your intake level has increased, and you're not adhering as well as the beginning, right? So I wanna sort of exemplify this with my own journey. There's one thing before going to my journey. There's one first change that if we do this one, we're gonna start changing the quality of the way we eat. And I want to clarify these two terms in case you're not familiar with them, and which are nutrient-dense foods versus calorie-dense foods. Okay, so what do I mean? What do I mean by nutrient-dense food? When I talk about nutrient-dense food, I mean, for example, an apple, right? It only has about 100 calories, yet it's full of nutrients. It has a lot of nutrients. So the amount of nutrient it has compared to the calories, makes it a nutrient-dense food, right? Versus, for example, let's compare a hamburger. A hamburger has very little nutrient and it has a very high amount of calories. So a burger, it's a good example of a calorie-dense food, okay? Versus the apple that is going to be a nutrient-dense food. So by doing that switch and starting eating more nutrient-dense food and and switching your calorie-dense food, you already are going to improve the way you're eating, right? So you start switching your refined carbs. You start stop eating, desserts and sugary beverages and all that, and then you bring food that is nutritive. Then you're going to see a great advancement there, a great progress. So the reason why it's important is because first they provide all of the micronutrients, the fiber, the vitamin, the mineral. The second is because they fill you up much more than the other ones. And thirdly, because while in the process of ingesting all of that, they sort of prolong the time in which everything is decomposed and sort of assimilated and then delivered throughout the body. Versus eating just something like, let's say when you eat the burger, there's nothing else than that food in there, and so the assimilation is going to be way faster. It's going to spike the insulin levels, and then that's going to create, in the end, fat to be stored. But the third reason is, the third question is, how much of them can we eat? And I would say that at the beginning, when you're in your journey, it's really unlimited. Like, you should not limit how much fruit and how much vegetables you eat. The more, the better. Yes, I said before that if you are in lost weight particularly, you want to sort of allocate the fruit in the morning and then sort of start switching to your veggies starting in the afternoon. But that doesn't mean that you cannot eat some fruit in the afternoon, even at night. Occasionally, that's really fine. But the more, the better, really. With this food, you're not going wrong. So now I want to talk about my journey here. How did I go from 204 pounds to 165 pounds, from 25 body fat percentage to 15 body fat percentage? And that clearly you can see the changes, right? So the first phase that I started with was applying the 3 pillars of nutrition, meaning the first thing I did was changing my meal frequency. Before I started, let me clarify this, I was eating all the time, at all times. I was munching continuously throughout the day. I didn't have a schedule. So the first thing that I did was setting alarms. This is a pro tip. You can use this starting today. I set alarms to eat my meals. So I would have my alarm for breakfast, my alarm for the morning snack, my alarm for lunch, then the afternoon snack, and then dinner. And then I trained myself. I don't know if you're familiar with the experiment of Pavlov's dog, that he trained his dog by ringing a bell, and then every time he rang the bell, that means that the dog was going to be fed. So he sort of conditioned the dog that every time he would hear the bell, he would salivate and get hungry, right? So in a way, I trained myself like Pavlov's dog, that every time I heard the alarm, I knew it was time to eat. And I had already prepared everything, so it was very simple. I didn't have to cook. It was already there, so just, stop the alarm, go and eat. That's what I did. I trained myself to eat at a certain time. The other thing that I learned was to distribute the macronutrients, trying to eat protein and carbs and fats. And then I was also watching how much water I drank throughout the day. And I started to enjoy exercising again and sleeping the hours that I really needed to do. But that's sort of a different topic. But anyway, you can see that when I started, I did not start counting calories. I just started with these simple changes. I basically put in order my nutrition and put in order my life. And as soon as I started doing that, I can tell you, week 1 I lost 1 kilo, 2 pounds. Week 2 I lost another kilo, 2 more pounds. and the progress kept coming and coming, right? So eventually it came to a point that I sort of got in the 180, in the 180 pounds, and I wasn't able to go any lower. And I was getting frustrated and thinking, what's going on? What's happening? I'm doing the same. But, you know, most likely at the time I was not adhering as well. Maybe I was, you know, on the weekend, instead of having 1 or 2 free meals, I was having more than that. Maybe I was, you know, having ice cream more than once a week. Maybe I wasn't exercising as much. I don't know. But I broke the balance, right? And the system stopped working for me. But I wasn't able to know because I wasn't registering. I wasn't tracking anything, right? So that's what when I saw the need to start tracking my calories and say, look, I really need to understand what it is that I'm eating. And so I admit that there were some days that I was like, oh boy, should I enter all that? Because I was fearing what the numbers would tell me. So really the experience of starting tracking my calories taught me a lot. Every time I enter something, I was like, whoa, I didn't know that this was the amount of calories that this had, right? So you start thinking about it, and then it makes you wonder, you know, every time you're going to eat something, and if you've entered it before and you know it's going to be almost 500 calories, you're going to think twice about that. So it's a great experience. And that sort of really helped me reducing, getting again into the progress. But then I was just looking at the total number of calories, right? So my calorie deficit was 1800, right? So my goal was just to get to the 1800. I still didn't understand the macronutrients and all that. But then, for example, what happens if you reach the goal of 1800, but most of what you eat is fat? Then you're probably not going to lose weight anyway, because you are out of balance. You're consuming too much fat, or you're consuming too much carbs, and the carbs are going to end up being stored as extra fat. So, you know, if you don't strike a balance, then you don't know what you don't know. So once again, I needed to bring clarity to what I was consuming, and I started really paying attention to the macros, right? So if you track, I really recommend to use using MyFitnessPal. That's the application that I use to track my calories. MyFitnessPal is going to tell you the breakdown of your macronutrients. So it's very important for you to look at them at the end of the day and reflect if you were on target or not. Okay? All right, so that really helped me continuing with the progress. And then in the last phase, when I have very, you know, like maybe 10 pounds to lose, and it was just the stubborn belly fat here around the waist, then I really needed to get serious about weighting the food. I really needed to know how much rice am I really eating, how much protein am I really eating, or how much is half avocado versus 3/4 of an avocado, right? And things like that really make a huge difference. It could be 100 and 200 calories plus or minus, and that really can throw off the entire equation. So at that point, really I needed to be very precise. But we're talking about the final phases here. So the question is, okay, I want to start in my journey. Where do I start? And these are really my general recommendations. I think that if you have somewhere between 25 to 50 pounds that you want to lose, you really need to start on phase 1. And that means you need to start cleaning your diet. You need to start structuring your meals properly with the macronutrients, even if it is intuitively. And that's really fine. As long as you're putting protein, carbs, and fat in a measurable amount, that's it. You don't need to weigh everything at the beginning. Start exercising. Increase your exercise. If you're too busy, your schedule is too busy, and you cannot exercise, then move. Just walk more. If you can ride more with the bicycle, if you can just increase the amount of activity that you do throughout the day, because that's going to count toward the end of the day, and that can very well, turn the balance in your favor. And the other thing is improve the quality of your rest. We talked about how stress is going to really impact our weight loss process by sort of triggering cortisol. And cortisol is not going to allow fat to be released or moved around, so it's going to end up being stored. So the quality of the rest is super important. I would add there in the quality of rest that the phone played a huge role in that, because I would go to bed, and I was going to bed at a decent time, and what happened was that I was watching or looking at social media or whatever it is, and that thing kept me awake for a long time, and it was hard for me to fall asleep. So really I was sleep deprived, and that by itself was not helping me in the process. So as soon as I put my phone in a different room, first, I never snooze again, and I would wake up and stop the phone and start the day. And second, it would not keep me awake during night. So that was also a great change that I did. So secondly, if you have between 20 to 15 pounds to lose, then start with phase 2 and phase 3, meaning start counting calories, start understanding the macros. What are they? What do I need to track them? Start using MyFitnessPal. It's a great application. I think you're going to learn a lot just by tracking what you eat. And finally, if you have about 10 to 5 pounds to lose, then I would advise you to combine phases 2 and 3, which is counting calories and watching the macros, with weighing and measuring your food. That's really going to help you be very precise about what you're eating. And so that's, to me, a natural way to get into nutrition. You don't have to start here right away. Now, I want to clarify that there are people that their personality type is that they want to have control over what they do. And maybe they're listening to this and then they say, no, I want to know right from the get-go. I want to know from the beginning what it is that I'm consuming, how much do I need to do to create the calorie deficit. And if is that you, and that's the way you like to do things, and you feel comfortable with that, then by all means, I encourage you to start right away with the quantitative approach. Start counting calories, start understanding macros, and more power to you, right? But what I don't want you to do is that if you're the type of person who gets overwhelmed with that, I want to discourage you to start here. On the other hand, I want to encourage you to start on the qualitative side of the equation. Start changing the quality of what you eat, and then slowly, progressively, as you get more methodical, as you make more progress and you need more accurate information, then implement all these new strategies to keep going in your progress. Okay, make sense? All right, good stuff. So I want to talk about Herbalife, and the reason why I'm talking about Herbalife is because Herbalife played a huge role in my success, in my transformation journey, right? And I want to talk about the way that they approach weight loss, right? And I think they've been successful at doing that because they have created a system in which they lay out or they practice the qualitative approach, meaning that they don't count calories, but they scientifically know how many calories do you need to consume in order to create the deficit, and they have done it to the very precisely. For example, now I'm going to show you here two cases: a woman of 140 pounds, of 5 feet, and a man of 180 pounds, 5'10". Okay, so if you look at the map, first they classify what type of meal plan you're going to need. The woman falls somewhere here in the pink meal plan, and the man falls somewhere here on the orange meal plan. So let's have a look at what it is, the type of meal plans that they propose, and see how it is a very simple approach to eating and weight loss. So, for example, for the woman, they have already calculated that with 1,200 calories, there's going to be enough deficit for that lady to lose weight systematically every day, right? And the way they do it is by just substituting two of the main meals, in this case the breakfast and the lunch, for a shake, right? And so the shake is going to have the protein powder, is going to have some sort of nuts, and that would be the fats, and it's going to have some sort of carbs. Mostly they're going to recommend to put frozen fruit or even oatmeal or things like that. So it's going to be a very satiating protein shake. You can see it's 250 calories and 20 grams of protein. So this protein here is going to keep you full and satiated and has a lot of nutrients, they're macro and micro, until your next meal, right? And then what they do is that they also sell their own snack products that they make sure that they're balanced as well, right? So then, for example, this snack, it's also some sort of beverage that also include 10 grams of protein. It's going to have carbs and it's going to have also fat, mostly coming from plants. So again, it's a snack at 150 calories, fairly low for a snack, and then it has some good protein in there. So again, it's going to keep you filled until your lunch. And then in your lunch, you're going to hit a similar protein shake. Again, it's going to be filling. You're not going to be starving. You're not going to feel that you're missing anything. Your body is going to have all the nutrients and all the calories, so you're really going to feel good about this. And then you move into the afternoon and then just have a small snack. In this case, the eggs have the protein and they have the fats as well, the healthy fats. And then you throw some vegetables there. Very simple to create a snack, about 150 calories again, and 10 grams of protein. Perfect. And then you get to your dinner and boom, there is when that lady has the full plate, and she's going to organize it the way we talked about. She's going to have the salmon here, which is the protein. She's going to have some rice there, that's the carbs. And then she's going to have some veggies, some fruit, and then I'm sure the olive oil and stuff like that. So this is going to be a great dish. 25 grams of protein, 400 calories, 1200 calories, calorie deficit for sure. If you do that day in and day out, you are going to lose weight. All right, but that's for the type of lady that we're talking about, okay? Remember, 140 pounds and about 5 foot tall. All right, so the men, this would be sort of a layout for their meal plan. The men, they're aiming for 1,500. This is a huge calorie deficit for somebody that weight and that height. 1,500 calories, about 120 grams of protein. Same thing. They're going to substitute the breakfast and the lunch for the protein shakes. Once again, they're going to be very filling. In this case, it's a little bit higher in calorie, 300 calories. So most likely, you're doubling the portion of protein. You see, 30 grams of protein versus 20 grams of protein. So the man is having more protein to feed the muscle, right? And remember that building the muscle is gonna help in the long run. Same here during lunch. Then very similar with the snack. They just swap the order. So here is the morning snack and then the afternoon snack. So notice the calories for the snacks are the same for the woman and for the men, right? But the main meals are slightly higher on the men. 300 versus 250. And then we come to dinner, and then the woman has 400 and the man has 640 grams of protein. Okay? So very similar layout. Once again, very small meals throughout the day, a very satisfying dinner. You're not going to go hungry to bed because you just had a great meal, very complete, very full. And so you're satisfied, you're not hungry, and you're having small bursts of energy throughout the day. You feel good. So that's sort of what I was practicing. In my case, I was putting the second shake here in dinner, and then I was having my big plate during lunch. So with that method is how I lost most of my weight. Almost 30 pounds, they just fell off using this very simple method. So why did Herbalife work for me? Well, it worked for me because it was a very simple approach to eating. Very, very simple. I didn't have to think a lot about it. It was very simple to put together. Number two is because it came with a coach. So the person who sold me the product of Herbalife was my very own good friend, Cesar. And the philosophy of Herbalife is that whoever sells to somebody else, they make sure that they sort of help them make the most of it with the meal plan and everything. So Cesar helped me really structure my meal plan. He was there 24/7. Every time I had questions, he was there. Calls, chats, whatever it is, he was always there for me. And that was very, very instrumental for me to have somebody there guiding me throughout the process. So that really worked for me. The other thing that worked for me was the community. There were hundreds, literally hundreds of people following Herbalife Nutrition, and most of them were in a weight loss program. So it was very encouraging to know that I was not alone, that there were other people there that I could relate with and that I could connect with. And then it was very engaging because they would do weight loss competitions every now and then, like a 30-day weight loss competition. So you were really focused on continuing with your progress. And then at the end of the 30 days, they recognized the winners and they told about the success stories. So it was very, very engaging in general. But at a certain point, I must admit that I stopped. I stopped having the Herbalife products, and I want to explain why I stopped using it. The first reason is because of the cost. It was I was spending somewhere between $300 or more per month in supplements. The protein was great, but because I was having it twice a day, I was using twice as much. So the protein that I bought, I ran out of it after 2 weeks. And I bought, I probably buy Formula Uno protein, the powder, and then I bought the bars, and then I started buying other products like the tea, and then I wanted to try the aloe vera, and then I realized that the protein that they had was actually a meal replacement, so the protein intake was low, so then I bought a reinforcement, and both of them, just this protein combination was $100. So I was spending a lot of money, and I thought that was not sustainable. I didn't see myself spending that amount of money in supplements for the rest of my life. I just thought it was too much. But at this point, I have already concluded sort of my journey. So I was more on a maintenance phase. And also because it get to a point that I reached a plateau and I wasn't able to progress anymore. I was buying the product, but I wasn't going any lower. My body fat percentage was not what I wanted. So I needed something different. And quite honestly, I got bored. I got bored of the competitions that were so engaging. But after 4 of them, I was just tired. I would wake up in the morning and there were like 400 messages in my WhatsApp. And so, after a few of them, I was like, okay, I had enough of this because it was always the same and the same and the same, like hundreds and thousands of texts on the WhatsApp. And then the business aspect really threw me off a little bit, and because I have to admit that, I was not passionate about selling the products. That's not what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about helping people getting their goals in fitness. That I am passionate about. I wasn't passionate about selling Herbalife products. And to be honest, I just needed to get out of that loop. Like, I needed to find out what's in the world. Can you really make it without Herbalife? Because it gets to a point that you think that if you're not consuming Herbalife, you're not going to lose weight. Like, out there, the food is too bad, too, sugary, whatever it is. You're not going to be able to make progress. I need to go out in the world and find out for myself. And that's why I started the certification in nutrition to become a certified nutrition coach. And there, with NASM, I learned the biology of nutrition. I learned the science behind nutrition. I learned how the macro and the macronutrients and the micronutrients really work. I learned about the complicated world of supplements. I learned about the importance of hydration, and one day we'll talk really about hydration, and we'll go far beyond the 8 glasses of water that people recommend. There's a lot more to it. Also, I learned about the effect of alcohol, that I think it was really, really interesting as well. And you know, I also learned how to restore your body using only natural food, as opposed to having to use supplements. And also, you know, more importantly, I learned how to help somebody achieve their health goals, because it's a model that can be replicated. But in a way, the philosophy or the proposal of nutrition that NASM has is very similar to what we talked about with Herbalife. We're talking about correct nutrition, proper nutrition, right? We're not talking about crazy things, extreme measures. It's really simple. So now it's your turn. I want you to take something away from this talk today, and I want you to take action starting this week, okay? So I'm going to give you some pieces of advice that you can follow this week. The first one is start implementing the 3 pillars of proper nutrition, okay? And that means set a schedule for you to eat. Make sure that you eat a balance. Set 4 to 5 meals. Make sure that is balanced in macronutrients. Make sure that you stay hydrated. Okay, so if you start doing that and putting your nutrition in order, you're going to start making progress. Second thing that you need to do is start switching calorie-dense food for nutrient-dense food. That switch alone is really going to get you on the path of success. Number 3, start increasing your exercise. However it is that you can do it, start doing that. If you can start walking 10 minutes, then do those 10 minutes. If you can do 20 minutes, then do 20 minutes. But start increasing your exercise. It could be strength training 2 or 3 times a week, or it could be cardiovascular exercise 2-3 times a week. If you can do both, that'd be even better. But if not, start anywhere. Start either one or the other. Action number 4 is improve your rest quality. Why don't you start by putting your phone away when you go to bed? Just put it on the room next door, and you're going to start falling asleep and waking up easier and more effectively. So that's just one piece of advice. But really focus on the quality of your rest. If you need to incorporate little naps, power naps throughout the day, then do that. But improve your quality of rest so your stress levels are kept low. Get enough sleep, practice gratitude and mindfulness. People think that mindfulness is not important. It's super important. And then stay organized. Stay organized, because sometimes having a mess around the house can create stress. All right, so that's it for today, guys. On the last episode, Keys for Proper Nutrition, part 3 of 3, we're going to talk about the 7 steps of how to start your transformation journey. Today was all about the qualitative, but next time we're going to talk about the quantitative. We're really going to dive deep into the scientific approach of weight loss. We're going to break down some serious numbers. So you better bring your pen, paper, and calculator, because we're about to get really, really nerdy. So I hope to see you next week, guys. If you found some value in today's presentation, drop in the comments below. I would love to answer your questions. I'll make sure I go into the comments after this live session is over, and I will gladly answer any of your questions. It's great to see you all, and I will see you next week for the last episode. Do not miss it. Bye, guys.